Hello, hello, hello. Today I'm talking with Carlo Beschi. We talked about getting pushed outside of his comfort zone. He also shared community stories from journalism, open source, and agile. I'm Ivanul from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you liked today's interview, don't forget to click it. Hello everyone. And with me, I have Carlo. Welcome, Carlo.
Thank you. Thanks, Yves.
And I guess Carlo is the way how I should pronounce your name, right?
It is indeed. Yeah. Well done.
And I want to show us a little bit on where we are because I'm in Belgium here, and of course that's happened. I just have a little problem with my mouse. So I'm in Belgium here in Ghent, and if we ask Google Maps to show me a little bit on where we are, we're moving immediately to London, where you're one of the people who are living in London. And of course, I didn't choose an exact location, but the goal is not to have to help stalkers. So we already see that we have quite a few people in London. So we might talk about some of them. And on my side, it's a quarter in before 10 in the evening. What's the time on your side?
8:45.
Quarter to 9. So we see we crossed the channel. We're kind of moving Europe because right now we are no longer in Europe officially. They're depending on what definition of Europe we say,
Yeah.
and a 1 hour time difference. Carlo, for the few people that don't know you, could you give, before we jump into the questions, a short introduction on who you are? What do you want people to know about you?
Yes. So I'm Carlo, as you shared. I am an agile practitioner. Been in the community for quite a few years, probably more than 15 now. And yeah, all of my career is in software. Done a bit of a development at the beginning, then moved into management roles, and then agile coaching. First in Italy, then here in UK. Yeah, I love what I'm doing, and keen to keep doing that for a while more. And outside of work, I'm a dad of 3 kids, a husband to my wife, and the son, and yeah, and what else? Yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
Well, and to be here, for the few people that know, this project originally started as a book, first a global book, and then based on, and I keep forgetting who it is, but someone, when I published that first book with 89 people in it, I felt like, oh, maybe a second edition, but I was a little bit doubt. And I had, I think, about 10 people helping me out. And one of these people said, why don't you create a series of books, one per country? And you were one of these people who helped out for Italy, and you actually took it in a different step, in the sense that it didn't turn out into a book, but it turned out into a website where you publish these interviews and everything. So yeah, for me that felt like, wow, instead of just, well, I was already grateful to have like 10 people helping out with the original book, and then all of a sudden there's like 10 different kind of books in different kind of countries. And so yeah, for me, I was really happy to see people like you jumping in and saying, hey, this is actually something that is useful for our community to spread more things. So I want to thank you for jumping in at that level. At first, I remember being a little bit surprised that it would turn out into a website, not into a book. But actually, I don't think the website is still online, but I do remember for a long time browsing to it and sometimes seeing new things added to it. It's like, oh, I see movement, and yeah, it felt very logical. So,
No,
so thanks for jumping in that.
no. Thanks very much. Yeah, so it was back then. It was me with a couple more Italian agilists. So it was Raffaele and Fabio, and yeah, I Yeah, and we went for the website, and I remember at the time you were like, you sure you want to do this? But then you were open to that, which I really appreciated. And yeah, it's not online anymore, but it's been online for a few years. And Italy had and has is a nice community, so it was a good chance for us to get other people to know a little bit more about some of the people that had, I guess, in a way, sort of shaped the community back then, or played a role. And then I think we just kept, the same approach that you had with the questions, and then referrals, inviting other people. One maybe curiosity, but maybe interesting, is that we had that thing about what language should we use, right? And back then, it's still the case somehow for some people at least. English, differently from Northern Europe, there's not the whole of the community and all, like, the population in Italy is definitely fluent in English. So we were like, oh, maybe we can do it in Italian and translate it ourselves. But then we didn't really never find kind of the extra time to do the effort, and also do it in a way that it's not just translating like automatic translation. You kind of want to keep the sense of what people are back then it was writing. So we may have had some in English, because they said, well, we're happy to answer in English, but most of that was in Italian, which I remember. I think we did back then briefly chatted about that. There's this value for the Italian community, but the pity of that we weren't given a chance of other people, across Europe and beyond, to learn more about this. Because I think a lot of what happened, at least with me back then, and some of that helped now when I was just in the last weeks watch some of the now that you're doing the video interviews, that there's so many amazing people out there, and even if you know a few, there's lots that you don't know. So the chance to know about others, and of course, back then, I guess the language got a little bit in the way of making it more, valuable outside of Italy. But it definitely worked for the Italian community. So yeah, thanks for giving us a chance to do that spin-off.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad you say about, well, like you said in the beginning, it felt a little bit like, wait, this is by ID. Why do you want to move it to website? And then I really, literally, I talked with my coach about it, and about, like, because I'm always having coaches themselves, like, what do I like? What do I dislike? And I was like, well, one of the reasons why I want to involve more people is to get to learn new ideas, and to get challenged on some of the ideas. And that's like, okay, I understand why I have that feeling, because it was a little part of me taking it in the book, and then very quickly realizing, like, that's exactly why I involve other people, because I wanted to move in different directions than I thought. And so, yeah, it felt a little bit uncomfortable. And once I got over that, it was like, okay, basically the uncomfortable part was my ego thinking, oh, my idea is better. No, that's exactly why I do this. So I really, I really appreciated that team, and a couple of other teams moved it into other directions. And I think that in a way helped me to inspire it to the visual edition, in a way, like, okay, what are other ways how we can do it if I want to do it back 10 years later, 12 years later. Okay, now these days we're much more working in video, so that's a little bit why we do it. So yeah, so we inspire, and that's a little bit how I feel that the agile community, for me at least, is working. We inspire each other in multiple directions.
And thanks for so I was not aware of this bit that you shared. I mean, I guess I felt back there some like internal struggle of, okay, I may need to let this go, but I'm not sure I want to. But now that you share more details about that, I think that's really, how should I put it, mature from your side, and it just made me think about that's a challenge that I regularly face at work, and in my life, to this letting go thing, that accepting that, it's my baby, but there's more value if especially if you want others to really take it forward, and accepting that I guess some of their thinking, some of the ways they will take it forward is going to be different from yours. So I just, something came to my mind is kind of really work related where I'm working now, something 6 months ago, and I was in that kind of situation where, I wanted to involve others. But then as they start to say, why don't we do this? I was, no, you need to do it, but you need to do it like that. And of course, that's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's well, for me. Thank for bringing it back to work, because that's exactly what all of us at some point face, I think. And I think the fact that I realized that in a community setting, especially on something I completely created myself, but then had already grown with a small community. Yeah, it really, and even created myself, it was inspired by Olaf Lewitz. So even there, the full credit doesn't even go to me, because he inspired me in a way. But it just, this is how how I want to work: get inspired, get pushed in a direction. Okay, some of that is awkward sometimes. I think that the more passion I feel for a project, the more awkward it is when somebody proposes something that might be better. Like, is it really? And when we can, yeah, look really from a distance, or when I was able to look from a distance, I was like, okay, it is truly one of the experiments that makes things better. So yeah, in that sense, it's and that's, I think, well, I'm you said for you it reminds you at work. For me as well, I guess this is something that many people will recognize at work. We sometimes do with some things, and yeah, that's in a lot of these things. Okay, that's already very jumpy into some of these stories, what is connecting us. Let's jump into that very first question. What is something that people usually don't know about you, but has influenced you in who you are?
No, I don't think you said it, but hopefully I'm not spoiling anything. But this set of questions is similar to the ones that we had when we did the written edition a few years ago. So I haven't gone back to check. I'll do it afterwards. So, but I know what I'm gonna answer here, and I believe it's interesting, not so different from what I answered back then. And I think it's about the role that my wife has played in my life, and in also where my career has gone. As yeah, I mean, as from a more personal perspective, when we met, and I was in my late 20s, and I was the best time of my life, and I had gone through some challenges in the family and friends, and I was really sort of backward looking a lot. I don't know what's the right way to say it. There's probably some kind of clinical terminology, but I was really just thinking about what has happened some years before and all of that. And instead, she really helped me looking forward, and accept, embrace whatever it is. And of course, I had a lot of my life in front of me, and so that was, I think, that's I mean, of course, very cheeky, but that's just the power of love, I guess. That's as simple as that. And I got a lot of okay, well, whatever it was, what was the point of just staying here and yeah, looking back and mourning and just being sad about that. And there's an opportunity, for each of us, and every single day when you wake up, you got that opportunity. So that was, I think, this look forward part. But then also she's much more ambitious than me. She's much more driven. We grew up in a very, very different situation. So grew up in a kind of decently, we're not wealthy, but middle class Italian family with not really any specific challenge or concerns in terms of well-being or having food on the table. She grew up in Brazil in a much more challenging environment where even the basics were conquered. And then part of that, probably the environment, and part of her own personality she developed. She's much more driven and ambitious, and always like, what else, and what else for me, and how can I do more? and I ended up picking up some of that. So I'm still not as always like willing to go the extra mile, and always like challenging myself, or always is not enough. I want more. So but hopefully I found a decent balance of being grateful for what I have and we have, and we have. We live a good life, and definitely part of the privileged part of the humanity from many perspectives. But to ask myself for more, or even just professionally, to say, oh, I could do more. And yeah, so for example, the fact that in 2015 we moved to London, and I came after a professional opportunity. So part of that was because she really thought that we could go for something more. And so I think there's a number of key decisions in my life and in my career that if I had my wife on my side, I would probably be more conservative, risk adverse, or just lazy, I guess.
Yeah, it's really wonderful, and yeah, I will definitely link to the original interview, a link, because next to the original book, it was even also at some point published on my blog before it went into a book. So that is interesting to see what are the difference on some of the answers, on where it is. When you think about the influence, you already said that your partner is kind of, well, pushing you is maybe to exaggerate it, but she's supporting you, and it's like, okay, she wants you to take more risks, or in a way. Um, it's Did you discover that rather early in the relationship, or is that, if it's not too personal, is it something that you recognize very quickly, like, hey, this is a good influence on me and on my life?
Yeah, I think so, and I think, by the way, that pushing is probably the right word. So it's not exaggeration. I think that, so back then, talking about 20 years ago, or almost. Um, yeah, I mean, it was my very early days of software development, and I was in a very kind of comfortable situation where it was the little I was doing was more than enough, and so I think I saw that just from more of a life and mindset, if you want, perspective. So probably just because I was in a different place work-wise, and work was just not at the center stage back then. But then, I guess, as soon as it became more important, so to go back to the question of, I think it's always been there, and of course, this is all recorded and public, so I don't want to like expose her, but I think would want her to feel like embarrassed if at some point she goes to see this. But I think that as I was saying, the word you use, pushing, is probably a good one. There's been moments where that drive, that ask to do more, or to challenge myself to, well, you can do even more than this, you're capable. It did make me feel uncomfortable, because I enjoy my comfort zone. I enjoy my, let's
Like
say,
every
now.
one of us.
Yeah. So yeah.
But that's kind of a little bit the reason why I was asking, because indeed, all of us, we well, there is a reason why it's a comfort zone, because it's comfortable, and then, yeah, it's good. But at the same time, a little bit like you were pushing me on the website of the Who's Agile thing. It's like, yeah, it's kind of, I had the other thing. It's like, yeah, when we then have a little push or a little nudge or whatever it is, we can realize, like, okay, there is something good. But somehow, from time to time, it's good to have people in our life that we trust, that can give us that little extra. And yeah, so that sounds like a very healthy and good relationship, when you can accept that from a partner. I do remember the first times that my partner was pushing me. At the beginning, it felt like, wait a minute, or it's not about not liking me. It's like, okay, we can go together in another kind of life, and that's I like that when we can do that together. When you with your partner, you can also feel like, hey, okay, and well, going out. And if you said it's 2015 that you moved to the UK, so that's almost 10 years ago. So that's a completely different life in a different country. So that's definitely outside the comfort zone, I would say.
Yeah, and you now said uh, trust, right? And I think that that's hopefully something that all of us or most of us have at homes. That's kind of that. You're not. I think questioning why is my partner trying to do this. So they don't have their own agenda and kind of circling this back to work. I think that at times where you see these things with situations where someone is really trying to drive someone else, but some of that is not working because that trust, that why are they asking me to do that, is not there. And I instead can recall situations where I've been trying, via coaching or via other approaches to sort of push someone else. You can do even more. But when that is so clear to them, that, well, it's not my agenda, I'm not trying to do this for me, right? Is because I think, this is going to be beneficial for you. That's really where I think, it can work more. And and as you were saying, I think the trust element is essential for them to not be like in a situation where, okay, why? I think some of when I sort of sticking to the push, I push back, is okay, well, it's not because why you want me to do this, and it's not serving me. It's more like, okay, wait, I feel comfortable in my comfort zone.
That's it. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, I want to move to that next question.
Yeah.
If you had not been doing what you've been doing now, do you have any idea what would have become of you?
Yeah, so I really wanted to become a journalist. I was very, I mean, earlier on, I wanted to do other things. I remember when I was in primary school, I wanted to become a builder, but that's probably just because we had builders in our house, and I got very fascinated. And so it was more like, say, kid dream. I think I really still respect that sort of craft, and but I never kind of gone professionally that way. Then I carry on studying, and when it was my time to choose university. But first reason I chose university, I chose was that I wanted something that was far enough from home that I had to go and live somewhere else, because I really dislike some of the. I grew up in a small village in the north of Italy, and there was a lot of bias and lots of just. It was very close-minded, while people were really hard working. So some of that was just not where I wanted to be, and I had my older brother, and he'd gone to university, but kind of kept living and doing all his life with the same friends, and everything was very clear. Well, I just want, if I choose a faculty that is far away enough, then there is no chance for me to commute. So I ended up picking a faculty in Bologna that was again was not commuting distance, so I did go and live there. But then I studied what was called back then communication science, mass communication. But part of that was really journalism. So there wasn't specifically a university for journalism in Italy. So this was one of the ways to go into journalism. And the idea is you go to do university, and then you basically have to do a couple of years as a I don't know how you say it, would be apprendistato, but you basically work for a newspaper or something, and you don't really pay you, but you can do the hours, and then you can do. There was an exam, a public exam test. yeah, I don't know if things may have changed since, but that was the route back then. So yeah, and I think until probably the second or third year of university, I was really committed to that. So, and I mean, I love the writing, and I still like it. And then I changed my mind. So I actually did some in those years. Did quite a lot of we used to call independent journalism. So I mean, for the folks that are younger and watching me, not kind of connect to this, but late 90s and early 2000, there was quite some movement in terms of global rights and human rights and the protest against the big economic forum and G8 and everything, including Italy. And the part of that movement was trying to leverage on the internet that it was back then to have basically website platforms to share information that was non-mainstream, right? So basically back then I so kind of halfway through university I understood that going and work for a major newspaper or something similar was not what I wanted to do. And in the meanwhile, I got involved in basically communities, really, not about software. I mean, there was a lot of open source software actually involved, but the idea was about open journalism. I think that was the way I was calling it back then. But you know, and I was before or very early days of probably before even Facebook and all of that. So the idea to give people a chance to share their own stories online, or to have, you know, we went around with cameras and everything and documenting things with this independent perspective was a big thing back then. So yeah, major event was then the G8
Yeah,
in Genoa.
I remember that. Yeah, indeed, these years at that moment, the internet gave the idea that everybody could be journalist, everybody could blog, everybody could write, and we could give an audience to many smaller people or not mainstream media. If I look back now, it seems to be changed a lot, I would say. Um, what did you move? What made you move then into IT? Was that a conscious choice? Was that something that
Yeah. So basically, then I think becoming a journalist as a mainstream journalist who go and work for some major newspaper in Italy. That's I decided there wasn't something I wanted to do, and I for a few years I contributed as as a community member to some of these projects of online journalism. The
but you weren't paid at that moment, or how should I see it?
No, that was just there was no money in that. So I was just doing my university and doing some kind of small jobs to gain some money. So that's how software came into play, because so it came into play in two ways. So one is that while studying something else, and I think we did have one or two exams about informatics and IT, but it's just really basic stuff. But I
More
got
bureaucracy, the office tools and these kind of things, or maybe websites, but not
yeah,
programming. That's what I'm hearing. Exactly.
So but I yeah, I think I had some friends who were more. Well, I had lots of friends with lots of, I think, flavors, but some of them were more on the hacker side, and some of them were just like, I think, playing with stuff, but it was both software and hardware. So I then got passionate about that. So I was good at kind of both, decently good at both things. I think you go back in that Beck interview, and there was something about early day DevOps. So, and I think especially in that, because we were in this small town where I grew up, and you had these people that we knew how to, I don't know, to change an hard disk, and we knew how to configure a web server, but we also knew how to change I don't know, HTML of a web page or something like that. So I did some some of that, really, very small jobs, and then there was some space, even if I wasn't didn't have any like official qualification, but there was work to do more as a webmaster, making websites and that kind of stuff. So I did some of that, and I think sort of gradually, moved into, well, I'll keep studying myself some of these, and I'll keep letting go of the other stuff. I think for a few years, I still, well, I let go of the more journalist thing. I was still into writing, so I toyed with the idea of, maybe I could be an author, and write books as a living. And then, I kind of just let go of that. I mean, I thought about, well, I'll go back to this once I'm 50, so I'm almost there. I still have time to, but yeah. So and then I just, as I mean, I was mentioning before with then with my wife and everything. So at that time when we met, which was 2004, I was still doing lots of these community stuff and these and open source projects in the meanwhile, and I got very as it was very close to my heart, also more on the this online journalism, more open source stuff. So got quite involved in the Debian community, so all Linux stuff back then in the days, early days of Ubuntu, so we're doing like I don't know, installation days, that kind of stuff. It's a mix of I guess technology and a little bit of politics, in the sense, well, we why is this stuff better than Microsoft stuff or whatever, and then other stuff that I think was open source, really, but then you could do work out of it. So I remember back in the days, WordPress, well, you could build a blog or website for someone, and so I had this, I guess, which has always been my case, quite broad skill set, not necessarily super deep in any of those things, but quite broad. So well, I can, I know where I can, so which software I can use, but I know I can change your pictures. I know some writing, and so if you need a small website for your company or something, I can do that. And that's basically what I was doing when I met who's gonna become my wife. Just some of these small projects, and then as kind of looking back to what we were saying before, be more well, kind of make it a real job and make a choice about what you want to do. And it was
So
clearly,
she gave you some focus also in that search on where you wanted to go. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah, I think it was clear that I was in IT and in software at the point, but it was more like
Well, clear for her, but maybe not yet clear for you, or how should, or
yeah,
am
I
I
think it was more
exaggerating
like
maybe?
I think it was more like get a real job, and instead of you do this
If
for
you
your
want to.
cousin, you do this for £50 there, you do this, oh, they're gonna pay you next month, just like a leverage on this or that, there is something there, and so then yeah, I ended up like work for a small company that was doing these things, there was their business, right? So they were doing, actually, CMS and CRM and a mix of things. And so I helped them set up their team and grow their team. And then that actually has been the beginning of my journey as more of a manager and more of an agile person, because I mean, agile person is not a thing, but that's how I got interested into agile, and then became very interested and then involved in the agile community. Because as long as I was doing these, I guess, small things with not a lot of pressure by myself, but it was all good. Then I was doing some of these things more with some more pressure, more commercial things, but like as an individual contributor, and still okay. when I started to kind of grow a team for this company. We're just talking about 4 or 5 people, but I think I start to look at things differently. And actually, the primary driver for me when I got into agile was how do I make their life better? Because at times their life got really miserable, because that's the deadline. Oh, there's a new client project coming in, and the old other project is still there. We need to do extra hours. Oh, the commercial guy sold another website, but they didn't really tell us. So we got all of these things. Oh, we got 5 systems out there and lots of bugs coming back while we're trying to build new features for this other, engagement. And and I was interested, how do we again, make it, I think, sustainable is the right word, while we keep being successful as a business. And so someone working for another company, I was just chatting, I think, over lunch or something. I said, "Oh, have you ever heard about this thing about baby steps?" What's baby steps? Is, well, get a big project, but break it down and do a chunk at a time, and maybe work better. Okay, well, I've got a book. If you want, I can give it to you. And it was Extreme Programming Explained by Ken Beck.
This is probably the most mentioned book already on this show. The many people that are inspired or that were at some point inspired by Kent's book. It's I think many people recognize that, well, especially people who are coming from the technical side, that are doing. So it's wonderful stories how that moved all, because it's kind of what you. The question was, what have you not been doing? What could you be doing? But actually, you did it and you moved gradually. It's a wonderful story. Also feeds back again to what you said earlier about your partner and everything. So I really like that story, and that it's in hindsight, it's always very clear. Like, okay, it's a natural path, but while you're in that, it's always like, okay, this is what I'm doing. It feels logical, and then somehow, a little bit months, days, weeks, years later, there is something else where we gradually move into. So really like that story. It's wonderful.
And I think when I've been reflecting on some of that myself, the time, and that was clearly the case at the beginning, but it did happen later on in my career, when I ended up really focused on sort of purely on technology. That's where I've been probably less happy, because the people part is really keen. So it did come back, in a very different way from how I was, I guess, looking at that at the very beginning. But so I think that's the. I love to play with technology, and I love software, but a lot of the joy and the fulfillment I get is where you see you making an impact on people, and definitely the people you work with or the employees of your company, and then of course there's people out there. So I think.
Thanks for bringing that up, because I think it's something that is really important to for people to realize. We need to look what is giving us energy. A little bit like what you say. It's like, okay, technology might give you some kind of joy, but helping others, I think many of the people here have this some way or another. And I think if I look back at what you said earlier about your life with the articles that you wrote as a journalist, I guess the goal was also to impact other people's life, because you didn't want to be just paid by a global big gig company, media company. No, it's more like I write the articles that I think will have impact on people's life. Is that a correct link that I make there?
I think so. And there was definitely that part of being able to make that difference versus because just guess, I don't know, doing what I don't know, a task that someone else is assigning you. I think there was something back then about some desire to be free versus some sort of implicit or explicit, let's say, censorship. So you can't really tell the story, or can't really tell the story that way. And I mean, I haven't really, done that for real. So I haven't been a journalist. So I can't really say that I've experienced that. Some of that was concerns I had, right? So I think what I seem to have seen is that maybe that's you may experience some of more of that pressure to conform and less autonomy in your early days, and then when you become more of a senior in that space as well, you can more tell your story the way you want. But anyway, I think that desire to make an impact, to small or big, to make a difference out there, it was really one of the drivers. And I think actually is this is not related to the question. I don't think it's in the in the list, but one thing that how should I put it? So one opportunity that I haven't had yet, and hopefully at some point will come, is to work for a company where part of that company mission is more impactful, is more something. These guys are really trying to do something that is really meaningful. I know. I mean, all companies do. Most of companies do meaningful stuff. I work in a company that does hair and beauty software. We're clearly in helping small businesses there and all of that. And I worked before in e-commerce, fashion and stuff. Of course, you help people feel better because they're wearing some nice clothes and all of that. But I think something more deep, as an impact. And but the hard reality here is that I need to balance that with the ability to have a job which gives me a decent pay and helps me sustain my family. So I'm not in the same place where I was 20 years ago. And
well, we grow. We have a family. Well, and yeah, so it's definitely things moved on. But that, I really like that balance again on these kind of things. Okay, I want to move to that next question.
Yeah.
What do you consider your biggest challenge right now? At least one that you want to share on the internet, and why is that a good thing for you?
Okay, so as I'm prepared on this, so I'll tell you what came straight to my mind. So it's definitely one. I'm not sure, it's the biggest, but it's one, and I'll try to share it without being without disclosing any personal details, without being unrespectful to the people that are part of this. But for very legitimate reasons in terms of the evolution of the company where I work, some of the people I work very closely with are, while having senior positions in the company, they are not necessarily very experienced. And this is, I mean, at this level is the first time that I face this in my career. I've been around for a while, and most of my career has been working within companies as a permanent job, and with jobs, with roles either like the one I have now as a lead agile coach or similar ones. And so it's definitely a challenge, and it's been causing me number of times frustration, one of the words I can use here. Why is it good for me? It's really good for me because there's a lot for me there to learn, and I feel, for example, like this year I'm doing better than last year. Another, of course, option is just going to work somewhere else. This is not the only company in the world, I did choose to stick there, and there's lots of good reasons for me to be there. But I think part of that is to the opportunity, the way I see now, is to sincerely, respect these people in terms of where they are with their own personal and professional journey, and to not be judgmental, which is not easier said than done, but is I can see whenever I'm not, it really helps me, and to stay curious, because if I just get kind of well, they haven't done it before, or they've just been doing this for 6 months, or they really don't know what they're talking about, or they've been in this company for 10 years but haven't seen what's going on out there. How does that help me? Instead, if I look beyond that, there's sometimes, this person got a great idea, or this other person's got a lot of passion, maybe it's lacking the expertise, but I can connect with other person over there who's got that expertise. So yeah, I think I think that there is one more sort of, let's say, part of my own journey, as a professional, as a leader, as an agile coach, to learn how to work with people that I think, how could I describe them? Yeah, a little bit more less expert, and may less self-aware. Some of them may be less. To oversimplify, they got leadership position but less strong as leaders than I had experienced before, and it's just so I think just selfishly, getting better and working with them and is a good thing for me. But then there is I think this opens up then the purely thinking about career in the future opens. I work a lot in this little bit in a bubble of tech scale up, with overall very modern culture and quite I think it's quite a lot done and relatively little waste and good ability to get stuff out there with quality, being it software or anything else, and I probably would have really struggled, if I were to move in some very different environment, much more corporate or much more like, there's a lot here that is not working. So yeah, maybe that's also a thing. But yeah, so that's what came to my mind in terms of a big challenge that I facing now, and why that's good for me.
Thanks for sharing that, because it's I think many people recognize that working with people, it's also very hard. When is somebody a senior? When is it junior? When is it? If you're doing 20 years, if you work 20 years, are you a senior? Depends really if you did learn in these 20 years, or if you did 20 times the same year, and did you get training? Did you work yourself? Did you work on feedback? And it's a lot of these things that I recognize, that working with people, it's not that easy, and it's it's and when people are less experienced than they think they are, how do we mention that? How do we talk with them so that they can still see it as an opportunity to learn, and not so much as an attack on their personality, I would say. There's a lot there. Thanks for sharing that, because that is indeed not always an easy one. And I want to move to that next question. And I think we already talked so much about it. You have all that drive, all that things about helping people, if it's in writing, if it's then in or at least in journalism, then in kind of open source, and then a lot of things in the in the community, in the agile community. Do you know where that drive, where that passion is coming from? Is that did you have it, for example, also as a young child, or how did you?
I think so. So yeah, I think that it would be probably fair to say, that's been some, it's part of me, in a way. So I've always enjoyed that, and I've always maybe just very unaware earlier on, but I can recall a number of occasions where I was I guess, sort of looking for those sort of opportunities, or creating opportunities for myself, for doing something like that. For example, so when I was a teenager, when I was a kid and then a teenager, I was practicing fencing. So I've been, doing fencing till I was 18 or something. And when I was 15 or something, I started to work as a trainer for other young fencers, So coach basically, right, for other young kids, and I really enjoy that. So yeah, and I can think, about other number of other situations in my life where I was going after some of that. So yeah, I think that there is that. Helping others, impacting things out there. That's been a sort of a constant, and maybe this is a specific thing about more teaching. Teaching has always been a thing. I actually I didn't mention before. I never thought when I was like in university or something to become a teacher. Probably I was. I don't think back then in Italy I had a great allure, great brand as a profession, because low paid and lots of bureaucracy to get in. But that's something, for example, later on that I have been wish for, or I still wish for, maybe something more like teaching some stuff at university or stuff. And I've been doing internal training number of companies, and I really love that. And I done a bit of a public training in the past as well, which I love. And so I think the thing about helping and teaching, and I think another way of also another side of that is that sharing knowledge, right? So which then can be done in a number of other ways, including this one and lots of things you've been doing. And so I've always loved that, the speaking at conferences or meetups. I haven't done so much writing, but from time to time I tend to do some of that. Just chatting, and catching up with someone, and some of that is informal sharing. Some of that takes shape of mentoring, but I've always that kind of giving back, to the community, and that's always been a big thing for me. Now I haven't really kind of did any attempt to really look at seriously where does this come from. I've got a Catholic upbringing, and I do remember with it's really a mixed bag, and this other things one could definitely say, oh, that wasn't great. But I do recall bad stuff would be around sin and hell and all of that. But good stuff I really recall about this really sharing, and giving, and so maybe come from there or not. And now other things that drive me, which are not connected, I'm curious, so I like explore, learn new stuff. So I think that the two sides you can look at that is I get passionate about that, I get curious about that, I get engaged with that, I get joyful, and vibrant, and that, and I want to do more of that. The kind of the other side is that when I am asked or I'm forced to kind of be doing the same thing over and over, I can get bored, right? So I think there's I mean, the realistic example would be, ask me to, I don't know, design a new training and run it a few times. I'll be super happy. Now ask me to run it 20 more times and I'll start to be, so I probably, tune it a little bit to find some novelty. But it's also true for, I need to kind of, what's right? Not really force myself, but to impose some sort of self-discipline when it comes to paperwork or other things that just don't see the point. It's boring. I'm not doing timesheet now, but there was a company where I was doing them. I just like do the very last minute. I'm not sure I should say this on record, but when I was working as a freelancer back in Italy before moving to London, and I had to invoice, but because I found it boring, so I was like a very last minute invoicing, or just kind of, you need to send me the invoice. Yeah. Anyway.
It's I find it wonderful how you, with such passion, also answer the question about what drives you, and on so much stories there, that again moves in all kind of directions. That is for me something that I found wonderful, and that is so recognizable and so really you, like in all the other stories that we're telling. So yeah, I really like that part. I want to go to that next question, and that's so what do you consider your biggest achievement? Is there, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's yes, there's like inner voice saying like, well, I haven't really done anything big, yeah. But I mean, I've done lots of things I'm proud of. So I think purely, very purely, like keeping it is in the, let's say, agile community space, something that I was definitely an achievement back then, and I was very proud of. So I've been the chair of the Italian Agile Days for a few years, including when I moved to London, still for a couple of years, and we had a wonderful event. Was that 2016? Last time I was the chair, I guess. I remember this. A big theater, and I think we were in Modena, and I got Goiko Asic to do the keynote there and introducing him to these 600 people or something there in Italy. It was a big thing. Now completely different, but not totally unrelated. So I've got 3 kids. All of them are still young, so they're 8, 5, and 2. And I spend a significant amount of time with them, and I found I found a way of balance and flex my working hours and my working agreements in a way that I can really spend a lot of time with them. And I'm proud that most of that time is really quality time. I mean, sometimes I'm just kind of doing the 2 things at the same time, but a lot of that is I'm just there with them. And well, I think that's that's a big achievement for me, as that wasn't necessarily the case with my first son. So when we came to London, the first job I had, I was actually traveling a lot, and I was seeing him very little, mostly just weekends. And I actually decided to change job back then when he was 2.5, because I just wanted to be more with him. and with the girls, actually, instead, I mean, some of that was luck, and some of that was really having not always easy conversation with my employers to have this flexibility. But I recall my early days as an agile coach down in Italy, when most of my friends who were doing this were doing this as consultants and were traveling all the week all across Italy, and they're just very little time with the families. So yeah, and look, I mean, hopefully that's really good for the kids as well. But it's the amount of joy that I get from being there with them is, I mean, it's no price.
It's incredible because it's at the same time so easy and so hard at the same time, and making decisions on priorities about your life, like you say, making sure that you find the right clients where that is possible to spend that time you want to have with your children. That is yeah, it's something I admire, I want to do, and that I fail in a lot of times. For me, big reason of doing the Who's Agile remotely, video wise, is because that allows me to meet up with friends like you that I haven't seen or connected in a long time, and still be in my own bed tonight. So everybody is now already doing other kind of stuff, and probably by the time this is over, everybody will be in bed. But at least tomorrow morning, I will be with them. And it's finding that balance, and it's both easy and hard at the same time, because it takes constant focus, and it takes constant, like, telling customers or looking for the right customers, and like, okay, to make that happen. So yeah, I'm in awe that you're able to do that at that kind of level, because that's is an inspiration, at least for me. I know I wasn't always that good when my children were that young to have enough of that time. My children are way older, so they're like 21, 19, and 16. So there's not much time left that they will still be at home. And that's exactly why I want to do that, because yeah, it is so important. And like you say, I really like that you add to it. It's good for them and it's good for us. I mean, yeah, even in the current age that they are, in my case, students and puberty and everything, it's sometimes like, "Rrr," because whatever, but at the same time, it's still nice to see them growing up, and nice to see them actually revolting into parents in a way, because that's what they should do at that age, and in a way. So it's yeah. So thank you for sharing that achievement and inspiring. Um, I want to move to that next question, and this is one that wasn't in the original series, so that's an extra interesting thing. Do you have a personal agility tip to share? Is this something where you say, "Hey, this is something I want to share"?
So let me try to say something not too obvious, but yeah. So I I think that let me put it like this. I think that there's a lot of the things that we do, or at least I do, and they just work for us for the work that we do, that are very generally applicable, and and anyone who's got some sort of knowledge work they could do, or probably can work for people that are doing anything else that I don't know, probably everything qualifies for knowledge work. But anyway, so for example, I I'm gonna share three things that I don't necessarily do, like, oh, every single day I do this, but there are things that I quite often do. So one is as simple as before starting the day or the working day to list down, and I do it on paper. What are the things that I'm going after that day? You know, let's say these are my priorities for today. Okay, okay, just think about that, write them down, and then go through the list during the day. You know, when you get one of those things done, check it, and kind of, I guess, advanced version of this is, or if anything else comes up, add it to the list. I think it's a bit of a so I used to use the Pomodoro technique for a few years. I'm still a big fan. So, you know, you can recognize some of that without then the time boxing. I think then the time boxing on execution thing, that's also a great thing by itself. But I think that clarity, you know, at the beginning of your day or your working day, instead of you know, going straight into one of those many things you want to do, or just getting bogged down in newspaper and socials and everything. So I found it very useful, you know, and just the act of writing those things down, it helps you realize, you know, oh, I got so many things. Oh, well, I should forget about trying to do this thing today, or out of these 10 things, which is the top one. Which brings me to the second tip, which is a slightly different perspective on this, which I got it, I think, is from the I don't know if it's his name's probably gonna say wrong, is Nap or something, but anyway, he's the guy or one of the guys behind the design sprints, and then he wrote a book about you know, I think more time management and productivity or something, and his suggestion was okay, what's your highlight for today? So, you know, it's like, instead of coming up with a list, okay, what's really the thing, you know, that you're, if you do this, you're done for today. You know, I could say, okay, I've done this thing. I work for 1 hour, or I've done whatever in my house for 1 hour. Now I can go to the pub or just go back to sleep, because this really made my day. And I think that's a very powerful question. And whenever I use it, it's very good for me, because you got that list. Oh yeah, we need to do all of these things, okay. But if you were to choose just one, you know, or don't even do the list, you know, okay, what's that thing for today? And then again, when I do that, I write it down, and I use it for work or also not work. You know, okay, well, it's a Saturday, you know, with the kids. What's the highlight for today? Oh, he's going with them at the park, or no, he's actually finally cleaning the cellar or whatever. And then how do you know, well, you you set it yourself for yourself. So if you look back at the end of the day, you know, have you actually work on that? Oh, I got distracted and I've done so many other things, you know. And if you're not able to do that thing, you know, why is that case? Or I think another angle of this is, and I've shared it with some friends, so I know some of their stories as well. Oh, I don't really know, you know, Carlo. What's the highlight of the day? I've been thinking about that for 10 minutes, and I don't know it. That's interesting, you know. That's sort of, you know, you're lacking that clarity. That's also insightful. And I think that the last tip is.
And just before,
Yeah.
I want to show you talked about Jake. I think that's
Yeah.
him, and that's the book.
Yeah. So
So
Jake
that,
Knapp, thanks. Yeah. So it's not in this book. It's in possibly. I don't recall the name yet. I think he wrote another one afterwards when he was this concept.
that's the only book I know from him. So.
Yeah. But absolutely, that's him. Thanks. And yeah. So yeah, the other one is. Well, it's this is very simple, but maybe it's less obvious for people that are less agilists. End of the day retrospective or reflection, call it whatever. Just stop there. You know, take a step back. Okay, how did it go? You know, what went well? What made you mad or anything? And I think that's.
It's a really powerful one. It's something I've been using myself in a way with my partner as well. Like we at the end of the week, well, at the end of the day, we always kind of prepare the next day as a kind of, okay, what's next, and then at the end of the week, we really review our week and let's like think about, okay, what's your highlight of this week, what is good, what didn't go well, and because typically when things are going not well, we might be too much in emotions to discuss it. And if you take a step back a couple of days later, or like you say, at the end of the day, emotions might be gone already, but then we can both, in a less emotional way, still talk about it, which is way better than not talk about it at all. So yeah, I really like that idea. That is a very powerful thing to do.
And thanks also for mentioning this. End of day and end of week. So this is not something I do in a very, say, structured or very disciplined way. But I think what you said about you still want to have either that reflection or that conversation, ideally, and if you do it when all the heat is there, all the emotions is just too close, but also just ignoring that is not it's not any if you're able to just if it's a personal thing or if it's a thing with your partner, with your family, with whoever is up to that, you just as we do with the teams at work, to that attitude of really we are here to learn, and the way to go ahead is learn, and we're all, imperfect. That's how, we are human beings, and this is life. But, if you look back, okay, but we also, we acknowledge that, but on the other side, we want to do better, right, for ourselves and for everyone. So there's that
Exactly.
sincere, desire to learn, and then that's as simple as 5 minutes or a chat or anything that can be super powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. It's yeah. Again, it's focus time on something, and that helps about the emotions and everything. Let's move to that next question. That other next question that is new. What have you learned about remote working? If we look back, yeah, is there anything that you've learned along the last couple of years?
Yeah. So I think on this one I feel more prepared if I am prepared. But yeah. So I think that right. So I'll try not to answer in 50 minutes. So I think that some things work better online and some things work better in person. Yeah. So what I mean is that so to unpack this more is that I think early days we were kind of trying to replicate all of the lots of interactions, way of doing things that we were used to do, we learned to do in face to face in the office, and just we just do the same thing online. And clearly some of that work and some doesn't, and there is a lot of some stuff which is very natural in face to face gets a lot of friction online and just doesn't really play out so well. But I think that there are things that are work amazingly well when working distributed, working remotely. I mean, there's a stupid but a real thing about, okay, if you want to have a meeting with someone, you don't have a constraint of a meeting room. Well, that's silly, but it's a real thing, and I do remember the days when I was spending time finding meeting rooms, and there's I think there's say by default the ability to focus, and do your piece of work is just really much more there than if you're working especially if the default office was an open space, so you get a lot of noise and interactions and all of that. Now I so where it's probably this, my kind of experience is similar to lots of people. So, COVID forced to work remotely. Everything is on screen and all of that. Can't go to the office, and then sort of gradually going back, and people will be in different places. So I mostly work remotely, but I do go to the office we have got here in London once per week, sometimes twice. Now I think that at some point, so very initial days, okay, well, let's just make it work. And then there was the whole pandemic, which was like kind of the whole context we were operating in was different. The pandemic goes, remote stays, at least for me. So okay, I think you at the time you it was a couple of years ago or something. You maybe doing a booklet or something, collecting a few tips from people, and I didn't end up contributing anything. But I had this thought that was about work is what happens online. Right, and what I meant by that, which I don't believe in that thing so strongly anymore, but what I was experiencing then is right. So we need to do work, and we also wanna we are social beings in different ways, but we need some level of interaction with other people, right? But some of that, can we get it from the people that are around us that are not necessarily our colleagues? Can you is there does it exist a scenario where you basically you separate through the concerns if you want? So while I'm a person that used to have all of my working time and social time with the same people, and the same people, we were going to the office and having our laughs and having our lunch and maybe also going to the pub, and then you kind of commute back and go to sleep or anything. But is there a world where, well, actually working from my home office or anything, my living room, but I've got if you got a family working with you, you got your family, but you got your neighborhood, you got your local community, and as part of you, feeling part of something, you can leverage on that, right? And I think that's still an opportunity. So and that's something that I definitely do more. So I remember I was that person when I was in Italy, working in Milan, commuting from my hometown. Basically you wake up, take a train, go there, work life, social life, all of that, at least during the week, go back, go to sleep, and instead, I got to know here my neighbors and everything. Of course, I got my family and all of that, and that gives you a lot of that social connection, that you need as a human being. But so I think what I then came to realize is probably my view was just just simplistic or wrong in that work is what happens online, is that if you don't nurture in any way that relationship with the people that you work with, that you interact with, it can be very efficient, but I think it's sort of a short-term efficiency and sort of transactional and really not great. So you can't, I think, I can get that vibe and energy and everything from the people here. And you and me working together, if it's just purely about work, at some point it really sucks. So I think that the face-to-face is just makes some of that very very easy, at least for lots of people. So what I've seen and seem to work for me and others is I think the simple way of calling it some sort of hybrid work. But what I mean is trying to get the best of the two. Now, what we are doing is, I go to the office, as I said, like once per week. So I think it's difficult to actually make it happen, but the idea would be that that's where you kind of want to be, leverage more on the social part, right, and doing stuff together. And then we also been as other companies. Some company I work with is we're distributed, so lots of us don't really see each other face to face, and some of us are around London, so we do see in the office from time to time. But others are somewhere else, so we do like bless you. Retreats, when we go away a few days together, and that's very powerful. Yeah, it probably is very. It's very it's very trivial to say that. So I think one thing is that to blend. So I really like having this sort of if you want mainly remote working with the ability to then leverage on face to face from time to time. Now it's I think it needs to be designed, to make it happen in teams and organizations, because otherwise what I still see happening in my company as well is because you're trying to do the two things, but you're not really. It's not just designing; it's just making it happen in a way that it works. You got these people going to the office, but they spend most of their time talking with somewhere else. So what's the point of going to an office to be like 5 or 6 hours in calls with people?
Yeah, that's yeah. I remember, especially in the beginning of COVID. At the end of COVID, we were supposed to come back to the office, but not everybody at the same time because that was too dangerous. And then we were in the office talking to most people who were not in the office. Like, what's the sense of that?
Yeah.
That's. I
So
really like that you stress that part.
Yeah. So when you make these things of you do a retreat, you do a team day or something. Of course, you bring people together, but that's then needs to be designed, needs to be executed. It's not trivial because then especially if you have people that need to travel and you need to budget for that and all of that. But also if you need to if you just say to people, okay, go to the office 1 or 2 days per week whenever you want, they've got the freedom, but then you end up in that situation where, most of them are, or half of them are online, so they still spending time in video calls and everything. Or if you go down the, you all need to come in on Tuesday and Friday, that, you're restraining people in their, in terms of their freedom and everything, which also is not great. I actually, so going back to more on the remote side of things, I did write something. I mean, was just a post or a thought a few weeks ago, which was about I think it was something like when it's sunny outside or I have a good day, it looks to me like we really unlock this remote thing, and we're so much more productive, and we have fewer meetings, and lots of the collaboration, is also async, and we write a nice document and we read them and comment to each other, and each of us has got more time to really focus on things, and get stuff done. But then on the rainy days, or when I woke up and not so happy, it looks to me like it's not so different from when I was in the office and we were in the meeting room and half of the people were typing emails while in the meeting, and now it's the same thing, it's just online. So I'm in a video call and half of the people are chatting on Slack about something else. So I think some of that is actually there, so we haven't I think let go necessarily of habits, when it comes to time management, priorities, and all of that. So I think I've got I'm happy. I think I've got a kind of sustainable day and schedule and quantity of calls versus time for myself or asynchronous interactions. But if I look at the people around me, some of the people at work, that's clearly not the case. They got these back-to-back meetings, and on top of that, they're still trying to manage these asynchronous things. So yeah, I think, but that's not. So my reflection there was, okay, if I was seeing that in the office 5, 10 years ago, and I'm seeing some of that online, well, maybe, kind of the root causes are the same, and it's about people and their ability to manage their time and priorities, and it's about culture and the organization, and that's not change because, your desk is in the office or is at home. So, yeah.
I really like that, because it's again focusing on both the differences and the similarities, because I think that sometimes we were getting, especially beginning of COVID, or when we were supposed to get back to the office, people were so much looking and yeah, how things were completely working this way or the other, but some of things are similarities and some of the problems are similar, might be worse at some level. That's true. You mentioned briefly the book. I'm going to put the link in the show notes as well. The 89 hybrid working tips from explorers. It's not finished yet. I still have room for more tips. But I haven't been, because I've been busy so much with this podcast. I haven't been busy to actively recruiting people. There's like only 20 tips in it right now, a little bit more maybe, but yeah, that's it. And I do get tips from time to time, but that without actively chasing, because it's a little bit like you say, we learn some things, but at the same time we might learn something else. Talking about books, I want to move to that book you wanted to mention. What's a book that you have read that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so as you and I were chatting or sharing emails just before this, and and I was telling you, look, I really read a lot recently, and I actually got a couple, but I haven't finished them. So this one I'd like to talk more about is it called Living Complexity? I think that's called Living Complexity.
It's Living Complexity from Luca.
Yes. So it's for my friend Luca, which I know you know as well. As you feature him in this.
Yeah, exactly. He was numbers 86 already on the podcast, so a long time ago already.
Yeah, beautiful.
And he's, if I'm correct, this is already the third edition of his book, available on EPUB.
Yeah.
Why
So
should people read that book?
yeah, it contains a set of practices, so things you can do to try and approach your initiative, your project, your software that you're trying to build, your delivery, with this from a complexity perspective. So I think there's been rightly so, a lot of talking about complexity. It's been a bit of a hype, which is, I mean, is great, and I don't think there is so much about, okay, but what do I do now? And even some bit more practical things like, okay, Kinefin framework, okay, does it sit here or there? Okay, now that I understood it sits here or there, what should I do next? Now, what Luca did here in the book is he collected from practitioners. It is most of that is coming from the software industry, but is not necessarily just from that, and is also applicable beyond. Is okay. So, what are some practices that you have tried to, again, to look at this thing with the lenses of complexity? So yeah, there's some of his suggestions, some of suggestions from other practitioners, and these hopefully that helps, that can help people to kind of make some of these conversations be more concrete. Okay, when it comes to this thing that I'm trying to build, when I come to this thing that they want to know when it's going to be ready, what are some techniques really, some practices. Or you can run a workshop like this, you can you can try to draw this thing and ask these questions. So yeah, so I think that's the main reason people may want to look into that, for some kind proven in the sense that they're not like ideas, but are coming from the field, from people that have been using this for years, and some good techniques, some good practices there.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because I think it's one of these books that the fact that it's already at the third edition shows that there is interest, that there's people keep learning from it, and because that's also the other part in the agile community. Things like complexity is it's doesn't, well, our insights in it keep changing, and we learn and we keep learning in a way, and that's that is for me one of the things I really like about Luca's book. um I want to move to that for me, one of the most interesting questions, especially after such a long discussion we already have, is like, what question do you also think I should ask you, and what's the answer?
Okay, so I think you could ask me why did I accept your invitation to feature in this show? Yeah, given got quite a busy life and intense with the kids and work and everything, and the answer would be that because I very much respect the work you've been doing, and I made time.
I really appreciate that you say it that way, because it's well, we talked a little bit before we started with the recording, how the impact these things have, and how we like both, I think, the communities, and that we share certain things, and how we can use this as a, because like I think you said, like, we could just have a talk, then the two of us might be really have a good time, but having it then recording online, we share it with more people, because, well, especially with a lot of your stories that you've been told, I feel privileged that I could listen to that, but at the same time, I really want to share it also with other people. So that is what makes it really wonderful to do that. And so, in that sense, I'm really happy that you did want to take that time to do that. And I think that's it. It was not an answer I was expecting, or not a question I was expecting, which is exactly what I like about this question, because it moves us in all kind of directions, and I never know in what direction that people will take it today. And so, I really like that. So thanks for doing that. Um, let's move to that. Last question. Who do you think I should ask next? And I think you had a couple of people in mind. I think one or two, if I remember correctly, that you
Yeah,
wanted.
I think I share too, but how many am I allowed?
Of well, we're I have what I keep saying is I have 630 people, I think,
Yes.
now on my list.
Yeah.
So I don't want to limit people, and at the same time, if everybody invites 10 more, then it's going very quickly. What I do can say is that I'd never guarantee that I will invite everybody on my
Yeah.
list. It will just see in what order that people are accepting, and that I can publish. So if you just want to do these two, or have a few more, then I don't have them prepared, but that still is okay as well.
Okay.
So who do you want to be first
Yeah.
to
So
talk
yeah,
about?
I'll go with those two, but I'll add a third one. That's okay. So I I'd like to invite one person. Her name is Federica Romagnoli. She
And I
um,
think, if I'm correct, this is Frederica, if I'm
yes,
correct.
yeah. So I worked with her when I was down at UXI in Italy. It was my last job before moving to London, and yeah, she's in the kind of the typical agilist, but as part of that, she isn't really, I guess, very visible in our circles, if you want to say like that. But she's amazing as a change agent and as bringing people with her. And I had this privilege of working with her when they were doing a big change initiative down at Hughes, and then I know since then she developed a great interest in working with schools, and bringing some of the concepts about what modern work looks like or could look like in software and beyond there. So already when I was there, she was really evangelizing this how we work in technology and other bits of the business, and for me it was amazing, because when you go and share some of these concepts like with people that work in a physical warehouse,
Mhm.
imagine, I haven't worked at Amazon, but Yux was a bit of this, two worlds as well. Oh, technology super cool. Oh, now we got to move the parcel in the warehouse. But that's a different story, and the different
Mm.
salary and all of that. And she was really, no, but the stuff for everyone. So yeah, and I think she's been on a mission, and then I know she's been doing great work with schools to, hey, this is how you want to work. So then I think it's great because if new people, I remember my expectation when I started, and just feeling natural, lots of things that now is, oh, it's so weird. It's so top down, it's so people shouting at me, it's so assign me the task and I don't need to know anything. And instead, if people join the industry with this, well, this is how I want to work. It's teamwork, it's visualizing it, it's retrospective.
Mhm.
Hopefully that supports a change. So yeah, I think she'll have lots of amazing things to share. And then another one is Antonello, so Antonello Caboni, and
And if I'm correct, this is Antonelli.
yeah, this is Antonello. Yeah, also fellow
Oh.
Italian. So yeah, I just cherry picked Italian, so that's fine. And yeah, so yeah, he also moved to London, and uh, yeah, he's got a amazing technical background in software development, and also more than that in testing. But then he's got very much interested in leadership, and he's doing an amazing job there. He's also a big champion of diversity and inclusion, and I've learned lots of things from him when I had a chance to work on his side for a while around really, I guess, modern, inclusive leadership, and also what that means when you are designing and facilitating events for small and large groups. And
Mm.
yeah, it's not something we touched on today, but facilitation is yeah, maybe that's part of what we were saying before about my desire to impact people and help others. But
Mhm.
there's a facilitating design and facilitating event in a way. You can give people voice in a way, but then you also leverage on that collective intelligence you got in that room, and and then there's the whole part about, okay, how do you do that, but how you do it in a way that you keep some pace, and it's the engagement, is the inclusion, but also the you kind of want to have some speed there. So yeah, is an amazing facilitator, and of course wonderful person. And yeah, sorry, I didn't prepare this one, but let me see if you can fetch this from your archive as well. Gabriele Lana, Lana.
Gabriele, I'm going to try to look
Yeah,
her up.
try and see if you're lucky. So
Gabriele, and then what is it?
Lana,
Lani?
Lana,
Um,
Lana.
um, Yeah, that seems to be Gabriel. Okay, let me check. I don't have a real picture, but I have on LinkedIn. I have an image.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can add this to my slides very quickly. Just the image. And that person, if I see on LinkedIn, well, I see connection. It's person from Milan, also
Yes.
connected
Yeah.
to Matteo and Fabio. So I guess that
Yes. Yeah.
might
That's
indeed be the right person. Let me first link also. So I need to go to that page. Should be this person. Let me show. Swapping multiple screens while I'm recording is not the smartest thing to do. But okay, this should be the
yeah.
picture that is
Yeah.
from
Yeah. Yeah. This is
from
Gabriele.
him.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks and apologies for the
But so I like that to have like, and like I said in the introduction as well, or before we started, like for me, this should feel as natural as possible. And like if we would have been sitting in a bar, you might mention someone else and say, show me like, hey, this is another person.
yeah.
And so yeah, it's a little bit visual if I can show it to people, but that's not the main goal. The main goal is indeed to
Yeah, so
get
Gabriele
these
is,
connections.
I mean, is one of the people that helped kick off the extreme programming user group in Milan back in the days. Had a huge impact in the local scene and then also in the Italian community. And he's one of those. Yeah, as you mentioned, Matteo and Luca and others are coming from that really extreme programming. I don't know, part of the agile world. So very keen on technical practices and craftsmanship and all of that. And Gabriele, yeah, I think has been very influential in. He did speak back then at Agile Days a number of times, but really influential in the Italian scene and very. The reason I cherry pick him, I think, before we're talking about people more on also the education or the leadership or the change beyond technology. Now he's been one really sort of making the case for the craft and he's got a sense of irony and humor is beautiful, but he's like, oh, I'm in my 40s, I'm still a programmer. Is it a problem? Well, no, that is a thing, because I love programming, and he's been, like making the case for, and hopefully now we'll see more of that, but it's not bad, if you get promoted to a manager. You love doing that. Oh, it's amazing. And there's a lot, to keep evolving your craft. And he is, he had this beautiful talk, which was again, professione, I think, professione programmatore, which would be like, profession, programmer, developer, is sharing really, I think, lots of, I think love, right? I think that's the right word. Love for the profession and for the craft. And he's a very funny person, and sure you enjoy
I
speaking with him.
already feel like getting in contact immediately because it's I think that's yeah, you're describing. Actually, there is a lot of love coming from your description. You use the word love now, but I think the way you described all three is giving lots of things. um my children will love that I have now a lot more Italians because we literally are planning to move to go on holiday to Italy, have a small trip in Italy this summer. So you mentioned Bologna, we mentioned Milan. So that's two of the things that we hope to visit. And so yeah, it's yeah. Of course, my children will not like me to meet too many people from the community because it still should be holiday. And at the same time, for me, it's like, oh, there's actually knowing these cities where some of
Yes.
these people grew up. I've been into some of them, but my children really look forward to having these kind of things. Carlo, it's been a wonderful time spending my evening with you. If people want to connect with you, what could be a good way to connect with you? What is a good way that they can find
Oh, I
you?
think nowadays LinkedIn is the best place for to find me, and yeah,
And I think,
just
if I'm
yeah,
correctly, that should
yes,
be
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah. And
profile.
yeah, just send me a message there, and I'll be happy to read it and answer.
And it's yeah, like you say, these days LinkedIn, there seemed to be a big shift happened the last couple of years. We all know since when Twitter is no longer interesting anymore, and LinkedIn seems to be the current place to meet and
Correct.
to
Yeah,
connect with people.
yeah,
Yeah, it's been wonderful spending that time with you. I've learned a lot. Again, it's yeah, I will have a look also, and link also for the people who are curious the original answers that you gave to this to the similar to I think 8 of these original questions when we started out. So back in 2011, I think, something like that.
yeah.
So already 13 years ago. And it will be interesting to compare a little bit on where is that still the same. Yeah, it's interesting. I remember that Jutta Eckstein had something similar. She talked about it, and in her case, it was like one of the answers for her was still the same answer, but she said like back then that was like I've just discovered this, and now it's like so many years later I'm still doing this, and this is still important in my life, and so it was like the same answer and still a lot of differences. And so yeah,
Yeah.
I have no idea about your answers. I haven't looked at them up either. But yeah, we'll see how things are moving. I
Yeah.
did remember your that you mentioned your partner as well. That I do remember. That part is something like I do remember, because it's yeah, it was not everybody that did that, but it was just like today, shared with a lot of love. So that part I did remember. Anything else, people will have to look up and see the difference.
Well, it's been great, Yves, and thank you so much. And I guess I look forward to the next one in 13 years. And I don't know in which media, right? So what's gonna be available then? Yeah.
Where we'll be walking in 3D or whatever thing, I don't know, because YouTube I think was already around. I'm pretty sure YouTube was already around when I created that originally version. But yeah, I didn't think at that time
Yeah, it
about
wasn't such a
any of
thing. Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
And definitely recording online was not at the level that we are here. But yeah, it's yeah, let's see first how long I will keep doing this one, and then we'll plan for the next thing in a
Fair
couple
enough.
of
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not in a hurry. Yeah, yeah.
that's
It's been a great pleasure. Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, I got a lot of I guess uh, good energy, and yeah, I'll go to sleep very happy tonight.
I hope you can sleep after this kind of energy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you. Take care.
Bye
Thank you
bye.
for watching Who's Agile, where the stories of agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other agilists.